Have you seen this video? Watch.
Here's my simplest explanation of the book of Revelation, especially the first 4 horses of the apocalypse. The question is, why these 4? Why these colors? There is information contained in the colors. God is not trying to confuse us, and he's not just throwing colors out there. There must be a rational justification for why he picked these 4. Take a look at your screen. What do you see? Here's the symbol, the national symbol of next door neighbor to Israel, Jordan. What colors do you see? Can you help me here? White, red, black, and green. And then if you go next door, inside the territory of Israel, there is the Palestinian, symbolized by that flag. What colors do you see on the national flag of Sudan? Let's go to Kuwait. Let's go to the United Arab Emirates. What colors do you see? All right, well, let's just go to Libya because it could just be coincidence here. Okay, let's go to Afghanistan. What do you see? Let's go to Syria. What do you see? Let's go to Iraq. What do you see? I wonder if God has successfully communicated something.
Has God successfully communicated something? Comment your thoughts below.
That video will probably grow because it fits our current nationalism in the geopolitical environment where Western countries who support Israel must hate Arab countries because they do not support Israel. This, especially with the dealings of the Israel-Palestinian issue that is going on today, fits perfectly if you're a Christian and you want to further justify why God is on the side of the Christian and not on the side of the Islamic. But is this theory sound? I mean, certainly the white horse, the red horse, the black horse, those are easy to identify. The problem comes with the pale horse. And although many people are going to automatically jump to the fact that the Greek word and Koine Greek word that is used there means green, doesn't necessarily mean green in the way that you would expect it to mean green, especially if these flags are supposed to be a true representation of this. Now, one of the best articles or papers actually that I read on this was by Maria Ospinnikov while she was attaining her PhD in the St. Petersburg State University. She cited and clarified how this information, as well as actually another paper written by Voloskov in Tübingen, Germany, they very much clarified exactly how Revelation is pulling off of what's written in Zechariah, and that how Zechariah has been tweaked a little bit. Zechariah 1 and 8 and 6 and 9, how they've been tweaked a bit. I believe those are the Zechariah ones, that they've been tweaked a bit in order to fit into the Revelation's narrative once the step 2 of it was written. You see, Zechariah spoke about the 4 different winds and the prophecies from those 4 different winds. And the 4 horsemen are a representation of those 4 winds that are spoken of in Zechariah. The issue there, though, is that when Zechariah spoke of what would be the equivalency of the pale horse, he used a sorrel color, which means that it was more like honey, more yellow. And if you look at the Greek Koine word, that I cannot pronounce it correctly, so I'm not going to tear up your ears with that. It can mean a yellowish color, a greenish color, a pale gray color, which has been mostly accepted by most people is the pale gray color, but it can mean a greenish or yellowish sickly color. Now, when that is applied, and that may have been applied because if you look at the time frame when it was written and not how we would look at it today, when it was written during those time frames in the late in the early 2nd century, then what you have to see is that if you were comparing it to a fish or a piece of meat, something that was dying, rotting, then you would see a more greenish color. And this is why the color green becomes more prominent, especially during the Middle Ages. But it switches because when Jerome first wrote about it in around the 4th century, he compared it more towards a yellowish tint. But then when Tertullian, he compared more to a yellowish tint. But when Tertullian in the 2nd and 3rd century wrote about it, he compared it more towards a greenish color. So we have variations of the colors being changed throughout time. And then in the Middle Ages, it became more of a skeletal pale color. So when you actually look at this, it becomes and this is where the paper written by Volokov comes in handy, because he explains how during all of this time frame, when it's compared to the dying of other animals, that is not exactly accurate in how it should be looked upon. But when it comes to looking at skin, humans, then it would go more towards the sickliness that could occur when a person is either dying, sick, or rotting after death, which would be more of a lack of color, which is why the pale of the gray comes into play. If you look at it purely just when someone is sickly, then you can gather your yellowish green color. But the pale rider is supposed to bring death, so therefore it should be more of the lack of color that you witness when a person dies and they start to become drained of color. So it doesn't really fit with them trying to utilize this geopolitical statement in order to facilitate it. And let me make a correction. I said it was Volokov who really brought it home to the when you're looking at someone who's sick or the color of of dying, but actually that was Garcia uh, Urena, which he wrote this in 2021, who actually brought this home. But are the Arab colors chosen because God was trying to send a message? I think not, because the green would not be the type color green that it is. Why did the Arab choose these colors? Most likely it's because of this reason. And that is the fact that each color represents different, I'm going to say some of it symbolizes the different caliphates or umadas, the different caliphates, put it that way, because I'm going to say their names wrong. And that's why those colors were chosen. But then there's the country of Kenya, who also has the exact same colors, but they're not a Muslim country. So why would they have those colors? Because quite possibly those colors could also represent the ideas of red being power or blood, of domination, white, peace, harmony, purity, black, mourning, death, determination, and ethnic heritage, or green, hope, prosperity, fertility, youthfulness. So there are many different reasons why these could have been chosen, but it's really based on each individual country as to why they choose to have the different colors. So basically, what we have here is just a reach. It's a reach by Christians, as they consistently do, in order to justify their nationalistic and ethnocentric and religious superiority towards other people. You see, they have to have a villain so that they can justify their genocide. They have to have a villain in order to justify their wars. They have to have a villain in order for them to say that we are chosen and we are following the right path of God. They have to create a villain in order to do so. And it's not like the other religions don't as well. Of course, in Islam, they create their own villains of the infidels and stage their jihads. So the villain must always be created within a religion in order to justify the love and peace and justice of your religion. If you have to have a villain outside of yourself in order to find peace within yourself, then what you don't realize is that you yourself are the true villain. So always remember that you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.